my first attempt at forging and heat treating a knife. I'm using 1084 high carbon steel. This blank is 1/8 of an inch thick. It's about 3 millimeters. .1084 is supposed to be pretty forgiving to heat treat, and it's, you know, a good steel for beginners like me. So here I'm just working the tip, bringing things to a point, flipping the blank, trying to avoid a cold shut. Now I'm going to start drawing out the bevels. I don't have any kind of a sander or grinder, so I'm hoping to forge the bevels pretty close to shape. Now the challenge with forging bevels is that as you get thinner, you lose heat more quickly. Here I'm just trying to kind of define the ricasso area. This is going to be a through tang or a hidden tang knife. I'm just drawing out the tang, and again I'm flipping the blank to avoid a cold shut. I wish I had forged the tang a little bit wider and a little bit more centered on the blade. Here I'm just cleaning up the profile on a bench grinder. I actually managed to forge it pretty close to my intended shape. Now I'm cleaning up the tang with an angle grinder. I'm actually grinding 2 blanks at the same time. Again, I don't have any kind of a belt sander or grinder, so when it comes to making the bevels, it's filing. Lots and lots of filing. Now this is where I screwed up. I should have filed more carefully and taken the blades right down to their final profile. Here I'm setting up to heat treat. I'm doing 3 stress relieving passes first. So I'm just taking the knife up to critical temperature, basically where it stops being magnetic, and then we're going to let them cool in free air. using a scrap piece of steel to preheat my oil, my quench oil. This is Parks AAA. It's supposed to be above 130 degrees, I think, to be most effective. Seems counterintuitive, but actually the warmer oil will quench more quickly because it has reduced surface tension. So this is a 3-burner forge. I'm using just the front burner for heat treating. I'm trying not to overheat the tip. There we go, there's the quench. We should have a hard blade. So I'm going to temper this just in my home oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll do 2 2-hour cycles, and I'm setting it on a plate of steel just to kind of make the temperature consistent. These are hardness testing files. It's a little bit crude, but it should give us a rough idea of where we're at with hardness. I'm shooting for somewhere around 60 Rockwell. That seems like the 55 file will not bite, so we're somewhere between 55 and 60. This is where I kind of realized what I was up against. Those deep scratches were no fun. Once the steel was hardened, sanding it by hand was pretty ineffective. So here I'm just working on the guard. I'm going to make it out of 6061 aluminum because I have lots of it. And now more filing. This is just a needle file. So we're going to open that up into a slot. It's just a matter of carefully filing the slot until it fits the tang. That'll work. Yeah, turns out handles are hard. I think the first one I made was too small. The second one I made, I filed through into the tang. The third one I drilled crooked. And the fourth one broke. So this is actually my 5th attempt at making the handle. I'm using some locally sourced black walnut. So my strategy is just to drill either side of the tang with an 1/8 inch drill bit. I'm going to open up between those two holes with a 1/4 inch drill bit. I've tried using smaller drill bits and they just wander off. So the 1/4 inch is where that was the sweet spot. This is a broaching tool that I made from an old industrial hacksaw blade. It's about 100 thousandths thick. You have to be careful. It'll really hog off some material. Pretty close. This is a little trick for the pin. So I drilled the hole before I heat treated the blade because I didn't want to have any trouble drilling through the hardened tang. And the hole is 3/16. I just inserted a slug of brass, and we're going to peen that brass in place. The idea is that once it's assembled, I can drill through that brass slug with an 1/8 inch drill bit, and if my placement's just a little bit off, it won't be a problem. Trying to go real slow and get rid of any bubbles that might be in the epoxy. Clamp that up and let it sit for 24 hours. So there, I just hit the brass slug and right through it. No problem. It's just a mild steel pin, some 1/8 inch bar stock. So again, I don't have any kind of sanding or grinding machines, so this is my handle shaping method. Lots of filing on this project. So here I'm working on the sheath. This is vegetable tan leather. I don't have a gouging tool, so I'm just using a Dremel with an abrasive bit. It actually worked out pretty good. So these grooves are going to help when we form the sheath into a taco shape. It'll help the leather bend more easily. Here I'm just riveting on the belt loop. Total overkill with four rivets, but that's okay. Now we're going to use some contact cement to glue in the welt. Just even those up on the bench grinder. So here I'm just using a nail to punch the holes for sewing. This leather is way too thick to use a regular pricking iron. And I'm going to sew it using a saddle stitch. It's just a kind of a pretty tedious process. I found that it's actually pretty painful for me. My arthritis or my carpal tunnel or I don't know what it is, but hand stitching is not something that I look forward to. The other thing is that my stitch spacing is a little too close, and this leather's pretty thick, so I end up having to use a ton of thread. I actually had to do this twice because I came up too short on my thread, and I had to cut everything out and start over. I'll just seal the ends of this nylon thread. I did dye the leather before I stitched it. And now it's time to actually wet mold the sheath. So I just wrapped the knife in some saran wrap and then use some duct tape around the outside. I'll just use my thumbs to kind of massage the leather into the right shape. It's not too bad, I don't think, at least for my current skill level and my current tool level. I think it came out okay. There's a few things I wish I would have done differently. The whole kind of ricasso plunge line choil area here is just a mess. And that's because I changed my mind kind of midway through. I had it more or less the way I wanted it, then I decided to change it to more of a gradual, rounded plunge line. But I just didn't have a very good way to really do that. And you can see it's just kind of uneven and it's way too close to the guard. I don't know. Also, I have some forging kind of blemishes there that makes my guard fit up not the greatest. The guard is also a problem. It's just not long enough to really be effective as a guard. I mean, it's more of a bump, really. Also, the pin, I think it would have looked better if I put the pin more in this area, kind of like splitting the handle into thirds instead of putting it kind of oddly in the middle there. The other problem too is that the edge is just too thick. So when I originally filed the bevels, I left the blade about 1 millimeter thick here at the edge, 40 thousandths, and that's about twice what it should have been. But once the knife was hardened, I really had no way to fix that. So in the future, if I end up with a belt sander, I will probably go back and try to fix that. That's why I didn't bother to try to sand this or smooth this anymore. At some point, we're gonna be shaving her down a little bit. The handle, I'm pretty happy with. Feels good. Yeah, and the knives work. I've used them, because I actually made two that are pretty much identical. This one I went ahead and etched with vinegar, which didn't come out quite as dark as I thought it would, but it still looks kind of cool, I think. Yeah, I'm not sure why I chose to make two. For some reason I thought that would be more efficient, but it probably wasn't. The sheaths, they seem to work. I'll have to try it out and see if this is a style that I like or not. I kind of think I wish I would have done the belt loop differently. Maybe come up and looped it back over instead of just having it flat like this. I wanted it to be flat and tight against your belt, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, that's it. That's my first attempt at making a forged and hardened knife. However, it's not actually my first attempt at making a knife. Check out this little gem. So I made this when I was about 13 or 14 years old. I don't know what kind of steel it is. It's not heat treated. At least it wasn't heat treated by me. It was something that my dad had and he thought it was pretty hard to start with. So we just cut out the shape, I think with an angle grinder or something. And then they had a 4 inch, or was it a 6 inch wide belt sander that I used to make the bevels. The handle is butternut and the cap here is walnut. Butternut is way too soft for a handle, FYI. And it's also, I made it way too small. And then I made this sheath as well, which is kind of cool. I did all the lacing and stuff. I remember reading a book and learning how to do that, and I did the tooling there. So yeah, kind of a trip down memory lane. I remember my parents bought me this book back in the day. I always had a goal of making every one of the knives in here, but I never got it done. I really wanted to make this one here, this survival knife. It had a hollow handle made out of a piece of like just Schedule 40 pipe. And I actually went so far as to make the handle and the cap, but then I never got the blade made or got anything fitted up. Yeah, pretty cool book. Copyright 1985. Anyway, thanks for watching.